Technology, no doubt. We see it everywhere with our kids, from texting friends to downloading favorite songs to web surfing online. It has become part of their everyday lives. Now, it may drive some of us crazy, but here with us today to help us understand the endless possibilities of technology in our schools is Dr. Daniel Domenech, Executive Director of the American Association of School Administrators. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Now, parents, we absolutely hate to watch our kids texting and on the computer all the time, and they're completely obsessed with technology. But you say that we really should spend money in our school systems on technology. Why is that?
Oh, absolutely, because kids live and breathe technology.
Yes.
We see them, they basically take showers with their iPods and iPhones and the equipment that they have today. So they're so motivated by this that it doesn't make sense not to take advantage of that in the school. It is a valuable learning tool. And unfortunately, schools are not really taking advantage of that. They're not taking advantage to the extent that the technology motivates kids to learn.
Why do you think schools aren't taking advantage of it?
Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. Probably today, the most significant one is cost. Right now, we see the impact that the economy is having on schools. Schools are making significant cutbacks. They're laying off teachers. They're not buying books or programs. Yeah. They certainly don't have the money for the technology. So that becomes a major issue. But it's also the training. Teachers need to be trained in how to use the technology effectively so that it's not just a toy and the kids aren't using it to play games, but they're actually using it to learn. Right,
and people in my generation, we're a little bit behind. We're not keeping up with the technology.
Well, the reality is that most kids are way ahead of the teachers.
Yes.
They're so ahead. A lot of the teachers depend on their kids, to help them with the technology. So teacher training is an important component. And again, the economy affects that because when cuts are made by school districts, one of the first things they cut back on is professional development of teachers.
Now, we're talking about funding. A lot of the funding, and people may not realize this, a lot of funding for technology especially comes from locality. How does that impact our school systems?
Well, it's a great point because the reality is that a school budget is made up of three pieces. The smallest piece is the federal amount. That's about 8% of the budget.
8.
But for the average school district, depending on the state, but a place like Florida, for example, about half of it would come from the state, and about 46% of it comes from the local property tax. And we know what's happening around the country with real estate values. They're down, so the assessment from taxes on property taxes are way down. So school districts just don't have the money. And at the state level, it's basically income tax dollars, and income is down.
Right.
So all the sources of revenue for schools are down, and therefore schools just don't have the money.
Now, with all of these things in mind, keeping all of this in mind, what are some ways, maybe some examples of how our teachers and our students can catch up in the learning and teaching for the 21st century?
Well, there's no doubt that the biggest impact of technology as far as learning is concerned is the internet, is the access to, it's the window to the world. It's the way that a child can research and can access information like they never could before.
Yeah.
So having access to a computer and the internet is an incredible, valuable tool for learning. And as well as online learning. There's a huge explosion around the country right now in terms of the number of kids that are taking online programs, particularly in rural areas or small school systems where, for example, it's programs like advanced placement, international baccalaureate courses, kids that want to take Japanese or Chinese or some language that can't be offered on site. Well, now a child can sit there and take that course. We're moving away from what I refer to as the edifice complex, the notion that you can only learn at the school building, in a classroom. You can learn anywhere thanks to technology.
I like it, the edifice complex. And you're really right. I mean, it really is a window to the world. It's opening up an entire world of possibility for our students. We're going to get more of that when we come back, because when we come back, Dr. Domenech will tell us where we go from here and the benefits of public and private partnerships around schools. Stick around. Welcome back, everybody. Before the break, we were speaking with Dr. Daniel Domenech from the American Association of School Administrators about the many amazing possibilities of technology in our schools and the setbacks in acquiring the funding necessary to implement them. He joins us again to share where we go from here and the benefits of public and private partnerships around schools. So glad you stayed with us through the commercial break.
Thank you.
Now, let's talk about technology again. There are really some pretty fascinating statistics about how much technology really helps in the classroom. Share some of those with me.
Well, it certainly helps in the basic skills because youngsters spend so much time typing, when they're sending text messages back and forth. Even though, admittedly, it's not the spelling or the punctuation or the proper sentences that we would like to see, the reality is that they are writing and that they are communicating with one another.
Okay.
And then when you look at their Facebooks and you look at all of the other social media that they use, some of them actually get into writing some fairly creative things on their sites.
Right.
So it is having an impact on communication skills, which are so critical for a child's ability to learn. The ability to read, the ability to write. It's making a big difference in those areas because of the technology. At the same time, though, we also have tools now, for example, chemistry. If you remember the days of chemistry where we had to play what they refer to as a wet lab.
Right.
Well, now, you don't have to worry about kids blowing themselves up in the lab because you can do these things online. There are other incredible opportunities. I've been into classrooms where I have seen youngsters communicating with children in China live. Okay, and exchanging and ideas and experiences. And I have also seen children communicating with a submarine that is thousands of feet below the surface, talking to these kids and telling them about the experiences that they're having in terms of marine life. I mean, these are opportunities that certainly I didn't experience,
Sure.
and most of us didn't experience when we were going to school, yet kids have those opportunities today. It's great.
It really does broaden your horizons.
Absolutely, yes.
And what about for kids who are possibly failing? Are there technology opportunities for them to get back?
Yes, one of the major issues right now affecting education is the dropout rate, which needs to be lower than it is, and graduation rates need to be higher than they are. And there are tremendous programs out there that help youngsters in what's known as credit recovery. For a lot of these kids in high school, they're so far behind that if they continue to go to school, sit in a class, it would take them years to be able to graduate. But now they can go online and take courses at their own pace and get credit for those courses and graduate on a timely basis. This couldn't have happened years ago if not for the technology.
And that's really an amazing thing.
It is, yeah.
Now, we were talking before the break about funding and how tough it is to get funding, especially to keep technology in schools. What are some opportunities that are out there for funding, both in the private and the public sectors?
Well, I think every school system in America is availing itself of partnerships with their business communities. Clearly, inner city situations have an advantage because they have so many more businesses that they can interact with. But even in rural and suburban areas, there are businesses that will partner with the schools, that will provide the schools with funding, for example, to allow them to be able to buy the hardware and the software that they need for technology. The best part is that I see a lot of these partnerships where the company actually allows the employees to have time to go to the school and mentor and tutor the kids in the school, and that's great.
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
I think at a time like this, because of the lack of resources, the business community across America is really stepping up to help.
Thank you so much for joining us today. You are so full of such great information.
Thank you so much for having me.
I feel good about the future now.
Okay.
About the kids
It's a great
tomorrow.
future.
It really is. Now, for more information on technology in our schools and how we can help our kids gear up for the future, visit aasa.org.